Welcome to The Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning back in to the Queen's Lair podcast. I appreciate all of my listeners. We took a break for the holidays to just get through the last piece of 2020 because we were ready for it to be done. I know I was. And I don't mince words on here. It was the longest year of our lives. I'm looking back now and I just can't even believe that we even went through this. But anyway, it's 2021. We are starting off new. This is, the top of the year is always a great time for a reset in your life. It's always a great time to reflect. It's always a great time to, reorganize, just everything that you're doing. Could be personally, professionally. There's so many opportunities at the top of a new year to just start anew, and I hope that all of you came through the holidays unscathed. I know that there are so many people. We suffered loss this year. We suffered health disparities, mental disparities, people's mental health and self-care has been, oh my goodness, it's definitely been a struggle. Even for me personally, it's been a pretty rough year. So I hope that all of you are, getting yourselves together and you're getting yourself back into a positive space. I know it took me a minute to get back into a positive mode. So thank God, 2021, if you're listening to this, you're here. So let's move forward. I always like to recap all of the people who are listening from all over the world. So I'm going to start, of course, United States is always number one on the list. United Arab Emirates. I've got a little cluster of people over there in Dubai. Thank you so much. They actually reached out to me, which is so cool because I really want to know, individual people, DM me or send me an email and let me know that, hey, yes, I am listening from, XYZ country. I love that. I love to put names to faces, Thank you, Ireland. Thank you, Bahamas, Russia, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, are great people to the north, Spain, Germany, Mexico, Brazil, India, Philippines, Austria, Nigeria. Oh man, let's see who else is here. Oh, New Zealand, South Africa. Thank you so much, South Africa. I just have such a love, just the African diaspora in general, but I just have such a love for Africa. It definitely, I educated myself a lot on different parts of Africa from very young because my dad was always a great supporter of giving back. And I know he supported an organization in South Africa. He also supported one in Uganda. And there was another place as well. If I think of it as we're going on, I'll mention it. But so I always was very fascinated with the different countries. And I think people just kind of lump all of Africa together as a continent and don't look at these individual countries. And, people who are in Nigeria, their culture is so different than folks who are in Kenya, and I think that people should educate themselves on that and, don't necessarily lump everybody together. There's different tribes, there's different, provenances and, all this sort of stuff. So I think it's such a great thing to research when you really dig into it. So again, South Africa, love you guys there. Switzerland, Pakistan, Uganda, Slovakia, Poland, Puerto Rico, Finland. Finland is new. I feel like Finland wasn't on the list before, and Singapore. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to jump into this podcast. Again, this is season 17, episode 1, Elevation Entrepreneur. And we are talking to the new author and my friend, Michiko Honda. How are you, Michiko?
Good. How are you?
I am fine. So give us a little background on yourself. What do you do for a living? How did you come to write this book? Give us a little background.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity today. And I am so excited to talk about my book and just to let everyone know from all these countries that you have mentioned that are all over the world to get the opportunity that everyone is able to hear me today. So I actually was born in the country called Tanzania. It's East Africa. I love Tanzania. And so born in Tanzania with a mother who was from Rwanda, which is very close to Tanzania. And with a father who is Japanese. So I have lived in Tanzania and later went to Japan, and now I am living in the United States of America. I came here when I was about 23 and went to school. I went to school because I wanted to become a nurse. So currently I am a registered nurse, and I did for a couple of years working on the floor, and now I am working as a director of nursing in the senior community.
Wow. So did you always know that you wanted to be something in medicine? Was that something like you just always knew that?
Well, I kind of, throughout my childhood, and my book explains a whole lot to kind of know why I even maybe lead to my, leading to the healthcare is because as an early child, I was able to take care of my sick mother. So I kind of started from there, and the passion that I had for the sick people, because in Africa, when you are born there, it's natural to take care of elderly, and it's kind of a natural to just be, we are kind of in a healthcare, but it's also, we are raised that way. So it became natural to me.
To be like natural caregivers, and I think it's very different in the States, because the States, it's like when people start to get sick or they get older, it's the thing, people start looking for nursing homes, whereas in Africa, and then also my family from the Caribbean, it's very common for them to be at home, and you care for your elders at home, Wow.
Yes.
So tell me, what made you, and of course I know this story, you guys, but I'm telling you this, she has such a compelling story, and we've been talking about book situation for a long time, because I told her from the very first time when she told me her story, I said, you need to write a book. We said this 10 years ago, because it is so compelling. So what made you write this book? And without giving away, the best parts of the book, what made you really want to sit down and write this book?
Well, knowing the unknown as a grown-up child, initially, to be quite honest, coming from the background of me, the poverty that I experienced as a young child. Back then in Africa, to go into the library, it's only for rich kids. So one day, a rich kid friend of mine kind of invited me to the library, and I went in there and I saw these many books and, many different stories. And I looked at it and I said, wow, maybe one day, I can be, my face can be on the book. So that kind of went away. Then later on, what I had experienced in life, especially about my mother, I kind of see that, my mom came and kind of vanished, and nobody, got to know who she was and things like that. So it kind of stuck in my head that, how can I tell a story to just my friends, and how can people become to know who my mother was. So it kind of carried on from there. And then as I was, getting mature and I was kind of continuing to experience life, then more things came, and being like, the challenges of me being, biracial, color in Africa. Then when I moved to Japan, then I experienced another different kind of, being biracial. Then I came to United States. Then I find another, kind of experience as being biracial. And to me, for a long time, to just find my identity was very, very difficult. And I was like, from such a young age to now, I'm like, wow, can really one child go through this? And what can we do about it? Can I just tell everybody about what was going on and what we can do today to help others? So I felt that the book will be some kind of a way to reach out to so many people.
So now when you speak about identity, and being a biracial child, and so much so your mom is from Africa, your dad is from Japan. Now that you've lived in all three places, you've lived in the U.S., you've lived in Japan, you've lived in Tanzania, what were the differences? Like, was it more, like, which area was more accepting? Which one was more difficult? What's the dynamic? Well, let's start off with Africa. What's the dynamic in Africa with you being half Japanese?
So in Africa, when you're biracial, they look at you as this beautiful thing that, you have this beautiful color because, majority of people that were around me, kind of like a little bit, their skin, there was some, light-skinned people, but it was kind of a different because this comes with, your hair is so soft, but it's really huge, and you kind of stand out. And so what I have experienced when I was there, it was, yes, they did see this beautiful, person with a different color, and they kind of like it. But also, you become isolated because you still don't belong to majority. So what they used to do was, they give me names, they call me any kind of names that back in the days, actually, what I can remember is that there used to be a stigma that if you are born with a white person, they call Mzungu in Kiswahili. And that stigma is that mother who have this child they're not, they don't have like a good job. They kind of call them, I don't know if I should really like say out loud, like, they label them like most prostitutes and stuff like that, or people looking for money. So it wasn't really a good experience to be labeled as a child like your mom is this way. And even it's different. Even these people are married to these people, but the stigma in itself, the moment they see you, you are just being labeled like that. So that was the experience, majority of the experience in Africa. When I went to Japan, my color became so dark for them, and it wasn't even a light skin. It was completely black, and as darker as it could be. And accepted from school was very, very difficult. They always ask me, what kind of zoo you coming from? And sometimes they gave me like bananas, and they said, this type of monkey eats this type of banana. And it was a lot. It was completely a lot. To be quite honest, between Tanzania and Japan, I think a lot that I took a hit as a being mixed race was in Japan. I mean, there was no moment that there was even accepted, you know.
Wow.
So I experienced a lot there. And when I came to United States, I kind of feel like I blended in, the first time, the first month and things like that. I'm like, oh my God, this is good, this is great. And then when I started going to college, then I was called the light skin. I didn't know what that meant. And so it kind of go on for a while, and I could see, like, even working in the group, as like an assignment and stuff like that, it was difficult. Well, where is that light skin? I mean, it was just so many words that they said. It was just a lot. So I kind of think, wow, one person, different view. And have we all have ever thought that? And so with my book, I guess someone is going to fit in and say, wow, I've seen that, or I experienced that. And we're going to look at each other in the community, and we're going to say, oh, yeah, that's Michiko, but that's my aunt, or that's my uncle. And what can we do to bring awareness to people that this is just one person? It didn't change from Michiko Honda from Tanzania to Japan and to United States.
Because you're human. You're a human being just like everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think has been like your greatest thing that you've overcome in your life? Because you found it very hard to get along, because Africa, you're not African enough, you're not Black enough, and then when you come to Japan, it's just complete no acceptance whatsoever. So what was your biggest, when did you know that you had like got over the hurdle where you have come to find acceptance? What helped you get to that point to accept being different? You're still human, but to be different and people seeing you differently. What was the thing that was like the breakthrough for you?
Well, to be quite honest, it was very, very difficult. It's like you feel like I'm sorry.
Okay. This is definitely a tough thing, when you take your time to get yourself together. I'm going to say a few words about this because I actually, have cousins that I grew up with. We're only like 5 months apart, twin cousins who, their dad is from an Italian background, and their mom, who is my mother's sister, and our family's from Jamaica. And I always thought growing up that it was a privilege for them. It was just so simple because that was the in thing, the light skin thing was in, and they told me, like, as adults, maybe in our 30s, told me how tough it was. Like we just automatically assume, the brown skinned girls may assume that, oh, the light skinned girls have it easy, because everybody wants them. And then when they told me all the things that they had gone through, I was shocked. I was like, I didn't know any of this because I grew up a brown skinned girl. I didn't grow up a brown skinned girl. And I had no idea the way that people didn't take them seriously. They just looked at them like, oh, they're just a cute face, light skin, hazel eyes, quote unquote, good hair. There's no such thing as good hair. Good hair is the hair that God gave you on your head, and I mean, just all of those things. Like, we had never really had that conversation until we were well into adults. I think we were probably in our 30s or so when we had that conversation. So I definitely understand this conversation. I understand the tears from it because they definitely went through a lot as well, and very similar, to what you're saying. And they didn't grow up in Tanzania or Japan. They were here in the States and still went through things. They lived for a time in Jamaica, and definitely it is a thing. It definitely is a thing.
And it's so true. every time, I have to, talk about it. It's kind of take you back to those moments that you're living in fear. Um, the fear of unknown, because you don't know when you're going to be attacked. You don't know what is your tomorrow. You don't know who is the true friend. You don't know who is around you that is going to harm you. So every day, I used to tell people in a later life, but in those moments I didn't say. I used to say, I just walk around like a gypsy in a way that I have one bag and I know I can run with that one bag. And living like that, it's so difficult. But what I find out also, it kind of humbled me and challenged me to think. Every time I had to have an idea of being 10 times ahead of myself. For example, in Africa, I knew I have to get out of there. And it wasn't going to be good for me. The only thing the good thing that will come out of it is to just somebody, an old man, marry me, have children, life ended. I was like, no, I don't think that is the call for me. Then when I went to Japan, in so much that I experienced there, my one thing was, I'm going to make it. And the only way I can do is education. So regardless what happened, I had to go to school. The school was escape for me. When I go to school, I knew I was, I had this freedom that, nobody can bother me if I have education. Nobody can touch me if I have education. So it kind of empowered me in my mind to say, get that education. And once you have that education, people can hear you, people can listen to you. And I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm just saying this is the way I had to go through in my head, because I didn't even have anybody to teach me the right, the wrong, the in between. So education was like, something that assures me that you will be okay. So when I came to U.S., I heard a lot about American dreams. And when I go to school, the teachers, they were very nice and they tell you, if you really try hard, you make it. And I'm like, that is so true. So as difficult it was for me to learn languages, just be mindful when I was in Tanzania, I only spoke Kiswahili. Then when I went to Japan, I had to learn Japanese. Then when I came to United States, I had to learn English. So everything was like start from zero, Yeah. So education is what kind of helped me every day reading about, life and other people's life and, entrepreneur people like, Oprah or all these inspirations, things you hear from other people, all of those things. Every day I had to challenge myself to hear it so that they can speak to me. And that's how I start to overcome. And I was, start looking at myself and I was like, oh my goodness, this is me. I can change me. I can change my accent. No matter how I try, I can't change me. This is me. So that's where the moment of saying, I have to be myself. This is just me. You take it or you leave it. Yeah.
Wow. So what has been like your most satisfying moment like in your life? Like what thing has happened in your life that you were like, wow, I accomplished this? Besides the education, like what's like a major milestone that you achieved in your life that you were like, this is something I always wanted to do?
So working through this life and, going through this education and things, I guess the one moment, the first time when I had a child, I said, oh my God, I'm a mother now,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like I own something. All of this
Mm.
time I was alone, and now I have something to look for, something that
Mm.
can challenge me. So every day I want to make it. I'm like, I'm going to teach this kid. And, now I have two children. Now I'm kind of like, a professional mom, because the first time you are like just one, you don't know so many
You don't
things
know.
about, yeah, being a
Yeah.
mom and all of that. Then the second child comes in, you are like, oh my goodness, okay. Now I have to do even better because I have two mouths to feed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the most happiness in my life, to say, wow, I have somebody that could have been me then. And now I'm able to teach them. Now I'm able to let them know the color of their skin. I'm able to let them know who they are, so they don't have to be a victim. They
Mm.
have to accept themselves. They have to look at mommy, where she is now, and not be bullied in school like I was bullied, you know.
Mm.
So it became like a voice in my head to you feel this energy that, my goodness, I am glad, even his two children, I'm glad that they're gonna stand up and they're going to tell other people that you don't need to be afraid for who you are. This is who you are, accept it.
Just
So
be
that
yourself.
was a moment, yes.
Wow. So
Mhm.
let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Let's find out a little bit who Michiko is, and who Michiko is. You're Michiko to me, but we want to let the
Mhm.
people know. Give me, like, what are some hobbies that you have? What do you like to do outside when you're not working? So when you're away from work, what are some things that you love to do?
Um, my hobbies are really traveling. Like you always, know every time you talk to Michiko, she's somewhere. So the the globe become something that when I look at this planet Earth and I'm looking at so many different countries and so many different people. And so I was fortunate enough also to go to different places, get different friends from different countries. And what I found fascinating about this is that it doesn't matter if somebody's from India or somebody from an Arab country, Africa, Asian. We are all human. We feel the
Mhm.
same pain. Everybody talks about the brothers and sisters, the mom and dad, and
Mhm.
so and for me, my hobby is like once I meet that distance. When you look at, say, let's say like from United States to Africa, you see it's so many miles away. Then you get there, and then you see almost the same people, but different language, different everything. But the common denominator is we are just human, and
Mhm.
we see human in everybody. But you get to experience, maybe the food is different, the language is different, the culture is different. So that became my hobby for me, to just see what other cultures do, and I want to be part of it. I want to know how they speak, how they eat, how they enjoy life. And
Mhm.
if I'm not doing that locally, I like to ride a bike in the trails, and it helps
Mhm.
me to feel that breathe, you know.
Mhm.
And also it's exercise, but it just helped me to just see the world in different, in different way. Just kind of take my stress away. Not that I'm stressed out, but it gives you a peace.
Yeah.
And maybe watching
I can see
movies
that.
sometimes, but I love documentary. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
those are main ones.
What
Yeah.
What has been like? what's been your favorite country that you've been to? Because I know you've been to a few countries, a couple, more than once. So what was the country that you got there and you were like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm glad I experienced this. What was one of your favorite countries that you've traveled to?
To be quite honest, when I think my first reaction, I read a lot about UK, all this Kingdom, about the Queen, about the London Bridge. Everywhere you go, you hear London Bridge falling down, and you hear a whole lot movies, and a lot of things come from there. So when I first went to UK, I think I had goosebumps. And I felt like I made it in life for whatever reason was. I was like, wow, I made it. I made it here. And I felt like, okay, that was it. So, and I love the way, they, hold themselves. I love the way they, just the style, accent and everything
very
else.
Proper,
but just the style, yes. Yep. UK was a place.
That's the only place in Europe that I've been so far is the UK. It's to London. I know there's more places I need to go, but yeah, it's a very, very unique place, but it's kind of cool. And the UK just, England just having the ties to the Caribbean anyway, because most of the Caribbean countries, have got their independence from underneath, Great Britain. So we grew up with that, in Jamaica, and, my parents and everything. So definitely a unique place. I can definitely see that. Who has the best food? What country has the best food?
Well, because I was born in Tanzania, I cannot leave Tanzania behind. I mean, they have some unique food, and I wish just the whole world would know, the variety of different type of food that they have. So definitely, the first best food that I said I can always feel homeless. I mean not homeless, just homesick to just go back and eat that food. It's Tanzania. And then in Japan, they do have some special food that I kind of, ate from, my grandmother giving to me, and, you felt that love and kind of growing up, just, feeling that that's kind of a classic grandma food, So, yeah, but definitely Tanzania has, delicious food, yes.
Wow. Now, I don't even think I've ever had Tanzanian food, ever. Have I had Tanzanian food at your house? I don't think so.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't make it. But I tell you, even I tried to make it, it's almost the generic of the food that they have. So in order to eat the Tanzanian food, you have to be in Tanzania. They have a way of making it. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So tell me, what other things do you have planned down the road? Like, besides this book, do you think that you'll write another book? What sort of things are you looking forward for people to get from this book? Like, what do you want them to come away with this book, and how do you want to serve the people?
So from this book, and I have quite a lot of people, bought the book and they read the book. They love it, and so what I have experienced, and this is something that I imagine that it will be, that way if somebody reads the book. The first thing was that my mom was being recognized a lot, from the, the experience that she went through. So I have a lot of women who has been in the same situation that have reached out to me and kind of ask me how how did you get to forgive your mom, and what is the forgiveness, and things like that. So to me, I really want anybody who read the book or is going to read the book to kind of like, when they get to a place where they need some help from me, to say, how did I do it? How did I, overcome a certain thing? I would like to help that. So that's the number one. The second thing that, that I, as growing up, I kept saying to myself, if I ever make it, this is how I will help somebody, is the mixed kids that are in, Africa. And it could have been any other places, that because I just don't know them, but I can only tell the people that I have experienced, that I met them. So it's a lot of mixed race kids that has been left without parents or parents, and that they're on the street. And some of them actually become victim, like human trafficking, or vulnerable to any type of situation. And so if we all as a community, we could, help them. And, that was Michiko then. Luckily that I kind of escaped that situation. And so there are many kids out there right now that they wish they can hear a voice like this and say their help is coming. And so that's another thing. And the third thing is that if any person out there that have parents, have their loved ones, but they fight a lot, they're not getting along, I just hope that we all can find a way of, forgiving each other, and learn and educate ourselves and know why we are so angry with each other. I just feel like life is too short. Yes, to find a way to heal. Exactly, that's the word. That's the words I wanted to say. To heal. If you're not heal yourself, you're always going to be angry with other society and everybody else. So I think the first thing is the women who have been victimized, the children who have been left, out there with no help, mixed race, and some people, they may not be mixed race, but they have those type of parents, and people who can find heal, that they can heal themselves. I think you will be in a better place.
I definitely, absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I think this pandemic has taught us, first of all, we've had to lock up with people that we didn't necessarily want to be locked up with sometimes. And I was thinking to my mom recently too, I said, there's a lot of situations that can go both ways. A lot of things were very good for people to be together, to force them to have to talk things out and reason things out and heal. And then there are the folks who are locked up with their abusers, that kind of thing, where going to school and going to work, a physical, building was an escape for them, so it's really caused us to, pushed us into a situation that we have never experienced before. None of us in our age range have ever experienced anything like this, So it's a very it's a very tough thing, to navigate. But I think that once you identified what was happening with you and you wrote this book, this book will free a lot of people. I think that this book would make a great movie. We'll speak it into existence right now. I think it'll make a great movie. I think that it'll be something that really helps a lot of people, and it's written by an everyday person just like them. It's not written by, this talking head type people, although we appreciate our doctors and we appreciate our psychologists and all that sort of stuff. But it's nice to know when just a regular person, a mom, somebody that people can relate to, because I think a lot that we carry as adults comes from when we are children. and it shapes you into who you are, So the fact that you're able to put all of this, and there's a lot of traumatic situations that Michiko has been through, that people would never, ever believe. I mean, I remember when the first time you told me some of the things that you went through, as far as like, abuse and things like that. I mean, I was like, what? It was just a really, gripping thing to hear, coming from somebody. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting your dad, when he was here in the States. And that was a healing process too, for the time that he was here. That was a lot of, healing, and he acknowledged a lot of things on his end, which I think was a great thing for him to have done, before he passed. So, like I said, you guys, this, you guys get on Amazon, support Michiko. Her book is called A Butterfly with Brown Spots. It is a great read, paperback book. It's got a 5-star rating right now on Amazon. Listen, it will change you. It will definitely give you another perspective. And I know that this is around the holiday time, and I was having this conversation with another friend of mine recently. Holiday time is when a lot of families, of course, want to get together, but it also causes a lot of stress too, because some of these families are barely speaking to each other, or when they get together, it's always an argument, or, and COVID on top of all of that. And there are family members who have left us this year because, getting sick from COVID. I've had 2 family members that passed away, with COVID earlier this year, early on in the pandemic, so this is just, it's been a rough year, and for this being New Year's Eve, and we're, going into a brand new year, in just a few hours, this is definitely, hopefully, 2021 will bring us in a better space, a much better space. But this is definitely a book that you want to have on your shelves. Again, A Butterfly with Brown Spots. If people want to get in touch with you, can they email you? Give us your email address where people can email you. She will be available if you guys are looking for somebody to come and speak, especially when it's talking about, things that have, this is actually talks a lot about race relations and, being a mixed kid growing up in these essentially 3 different worlds, Africa, Japan, and the U.S. So give us your email address. Where can people email you?
So for right now, we are using Michiko Honda. So Michiko Honda at yahoo.com. And yes, so just my first name and my last name, Michiko Honda at yahoo.com.
Okay. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes so that people, when you go to listen, to this episode, if, you can always go back and listen to the episodes. It'll be in the show notes. Her email address will be there. Definitely shoot her an email and ask whatever questions you want to ask. Because remember, this is a person that's just like you, who grew up in some tough situations. They were great. I'm sure there are great memories, but there's also very hurtful ones as well. And we all know, I know what it's like now, to lose a parent. My father passed a couple of years ago, so I definitely know what it's like to lose a parent. And to lose your mother at a young age, is definitely a tough thing to navigate as well. But you have a woman here who has been through so much and has found a way, got herself through school, became a nurse. She's a director of nursing now. Now she's an author, and the entrepreneur stuff is coming through there. There's a whole lot more that we're going to hear from Michiko. And thank you so much for coming on, the podcast and sharing a little bit about. We're not going to do any spoilers of the book. You guys, it is a page turner. You need to get this book. It is on Amazon, A Butterfly with Brown Spots. Michiko, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. anything else you want us to know before we go?
I just want to say that, Renee, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be, on this interview today, or to talk about myself, about the book, but most importantly, I feel free that there's someone out there that was in the dark, and to hear my voice, to hear that this is actually human being in another place or another continent that it is, has the same experience, and she made it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I'll make it. So many nights I thought that was the end of me on that day, on that moment. But then the next day comes. Then what happened? So I know there are so many people, and I've seen them on the street. I've seen them everywhere. I think people, even the people who have made it, they have the same experience. Every day, Renee, I go to work, people say, that was me. But they feel ashamed to come out. They think, people is going to know about my background. Guys, it's not that anymore. You are never going to heal if you cannot get it out. And you have to be honest yourself. You have to say, it's not your fault. All of these things happened, I had no control over. I had no control of how my parents met. I had no control of how life took me through. So you are me. You are that person that feel ashamed to say, I'm ashamed to say that I was poor. Is it a crime to be poor? No. But even me, it was really hard to come and say, this is what I experienced. As a director of nursing, they think you just made it there overnight. People don't know what you went through.
Work. Yeah, there's a whole lot to get to that point.
Exactly. So what I see, the people at my job at first, they were shocked to read my book. They're like, what? We could not believe it. So you are me, and please feel free to just ask questions. And when you email me, please put the subject a butterfly with brown spot, so that I know this is related to the book, and so that we can know how to help each other. Right now, 2021, all of us need help, and together I think we can make it.
Definitely. Well, I don't know a better way to end this off. I don't know a better way. This is going to be the first episode that's, for our new season 17, episode 1 of the Queen's Layer podcast. Thank you so much, Michiko, for sharing a little bit of your story. We're going to leave the rest of the cliffhangers for people to go purchase your book. It is on Amazon, and thank you so much for coming on the show.